Hi everyone, I'm Marguerite with Wreaths by Marguerite. Welcome to the channel where we turn ribbon mesh and a little creativity into beautiful wreaths you'll love. Today's tutorial is about a home for the holidays storm door wreath for Christmas. This is the first in the Christmas in July series. It's a storm door style. If you're asking yourself what a storm door wreath is, it's a wreath that is super, let me see in the camera, super thin from the side. It's under 4 inches deep, but it gives it a big fluffy lip from the front so that you can place it behind a storm or a screen door. Typically you have 4 inches of space there, and this fits perfectly in that space. Versus a traditional wreath that has a big fluffy bow, that would get squished and look less than desirable. So stay tuned and let's get started with this Christmas storm door wreath. Okay, so let's go over the supplies. Like I said, this is the beginning of the Christmas in July series. This is a tutorial for a wreath that I'm putting in my shop. This is not a kit. It'll still give you a general idea of what the tutorials are like. The tutorials for the kits is what I mean. The tutorials for the kits are much longer, and if you want to go back to the beginning of 2024 and watch the videos now before you do anything else, that'll be a great place to start after you watch this, because I show every single detail of the prep of this material. So today we're still using a 14¼ inch wreath frame, this time with red pipe cleaners on it, and there are 12 pipe cleaners, 12 sets of ribbon tails, and 12 pieces of mesh. I went with red because all of the colors of the ribbon and the ribbon tails have red edges. That way everything blends together. You're not focusing on the mechanics as much. So I have the ribbon here, so I might as well show it to you. So I'm going with a plaid 2½ inch that's cut at 12 inches, a light bulb 2½ inches at 13 inches, as well as a snowflake at 13 inches in length, 2½ inches long. My inspiration was the colors in the wreath sign. Right here, there is a string of Christmas lights, so I thought that'd be a great addition there. There's lots of snow, and then of course this is all the colors that are present except for like the brown and black. So that was my inspiration. I always take my color choices from the signs. Makes it easy to get something that coordinates really well. And then I went with a 10-inch mesh, which is what you always do on the storm door style wreath, which is what this is. Oop, I got one fray. Just know that mesh frays always. There's no such thing as mesh that doesn't fray. I chose a mesh with snowball mesh woven through because of the snow on the sign. I thought that'd go really well. Yes, this has the lime green on it, but that's not a problem or an issue as long as you've got colors and designs that match their sign. You're good to go. Alright, so I'm going to put the ribbon aside for now and the sign. Once I show you that on the back, I've taken 2 pipe cleaners here and I've stapled them on using 1/4 inch staples. You never want bigger than or deeper than 1/4 inch staples, or they will go through the front of your sign. There are other options which I can show you in other videos. You can refer to them. So I took 2 pipe cleaners, cut them in half, mounted them. That's long enough to get through all of the materials on a storm door wreath. So I'm going to set that over here for now, out of the way. Because first and foremost, we're going to use the frame. Real quick about the frame. Like I said, this is a 14¼ inch frame. It has 4 rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 crossbars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of the pipe cleaners are attached to the crossbars on rings 1 and 2, and then the other 6 are on the crossbars, not on the crossbars, are in between the crossbars on rings 3 and 4. It's important that you place them that way because otherwise it doesn't balance and lay as flat as you want in this style of wreath. You can also, I've found through trial and error, you could use a 12-inch wreath frame that I found out there. It's still got to have the 4 rings and it still have to have the 6 crossbars for this design to work, but it makes it just as big, slightly smaller unless you make one side of the mesh hang out beyond the edge a little bit longer, which is a secondary version of this wreath. I'm going to go ahead and start ruffling the mesh because we're going to be putting it into the outer ring first. So I always try to make sure that all my pipe cleaners are facing me and set horizontally. Always turn the wreath as you're creating so that you're not contorting your body and straining from reaching. It's one of my biggest pieces of advice. So when I'm working on a pipe cleaner, I have the one I'm working on directly in front of me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 poofs in, and then the following 3 on the outside edge. So I'm going to put one here, skip this one here, skip this one here, skip this one, and then go back and do the other 3. That helps it lay flatter. One of my favorite tools is a chip clip for holding my mesh. You're going to need some wire cutters, some scissors, maybe some needle nose. I use this plastic embroidery needle that's 6 inches longer. They make different lengths, but you need at least 6 inches to help get the sign through. You'll understand when I get to that point. And this is just a tool to help me curl the pipe cleaners at the end. You can use a dowel or a pen or pencil. A standard pen or pencil are the right diameter for wrapping to make your curlicues. Okay, so let's get started. I use the edge of the table to uncurl my mesh because you want it curl side down. You can either use a ruler to find your center, or you can just fold it directly in half, and that's where the chip clip comes in. You place it in the center. This has a design with a red stripe in the center that makes it super easy for me to find my center. But if I had a solid colored mesh, I would just fold it in half again to find my center. And then I'm going to take my thumbs and put it on the outside of the mesh. And I'm just going to use both hands to crawl up the mesh, gathering it in my thumbs in small little gathers. The smaller the better. It helps keep the height of the wreath under that 4 inches we're aiming for a storm door wreath. Take the clip off. And then what I do is I hold it with my thumb and my forefinger loosely so I can adjust the edges of the mesh, because we want the outside edges to meet so this is basically a perfect circle. There's no such thing as perfect in wreath making, but as perfect as it can be. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed or not, but I'm telling you right now, this is how I put my mesh in. I either turn it one way or the other just a little bit, but that pipe cleaner is still in front of me that I'm working on. I'm going to place this in the frame, in the pipe cleaner, and I know where my center is because that red stripe is the center, making sure that it's right in the middle. Then I'm going to take that pipe cleaner and twist it tight and low, not tight and up in the air, because we want to keep this thin. I twist it 3 times. Then I'm going to take the outside cut edge on one side over the outside cut on the other side. And then I'm doing the same on this side of the poof. Okay? Now you want to make sure that everything's even, and if you have to adjust it, don't grab it from the edge of the mesh. Hold it from the pipe cleaner and pull from there. Because there are designs in this mesh, we don't want to disrupt the pattern and, for lack of a better way to put it, jack it up. I'm going to stick this in the air for now. So I've got this circle. Okay? Basically you want half on the outside, half on the inside. And this is where I'll talk about the 12-inch frame. If it's a 12-inch frame versus this 14¼ inch frame, you would put the mesh in here slightly longer on this side and slightly shorter on that side. So that would make up the difference in the width of the wreath, if you're still trying to keep it as wide. My customers haven't noticed the difference yet where I have done the 12-inch frame. So remember, I'm skipping that one and I'm going to this one. Now you also have to be cognizant on your mesh. Get back over there. This particular one has a dark green on one side and a lime green on the other. So I'm going to have to be cognizant of making sure that I put these in the frame exactly the same direction. But I will mix it up a little bit. These first 3 are going to have the dark green on the outside edge, and the second 3 are going to have the lime green on the outside edge. That gives it more dimension, more going on. You don't have to do that. You can do it all the same way. And for sure, if you have a frame that doesn't have an even number of attachments on it, meaning the pipe cleaner, you're going to have to do it all the same direction, because there will be 2 that are next to each other. And I don't know about anybody else, that would bug me as the creator of this project. So same thing again, and I'm not following my own direction. You can go in the complete circle without skipping any. That's entirely up to you. There are a lot of options involved in wreath making. So some things are pretty static, but that is not one. Twisting that tight and low 3 times. I'm bringing this outside cut edge over this outside cut edge, and then this side's cut edge over this side's cut edge. Now, this is it even? It looks pretty even, but it's just bunching up funny out here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it at the pipe cleaner. This is about 1 inch off. That should probably help correct that problem. I'm going to pull it from right at the pipe cleaner out just enough to even it out with that side. And I always put, if you notice, I always put the mesh in the frame and up and down vertical, because if you do it the other way, these cut edges end up being at the outside edge of the wreath, which makes them more prone to snagging, and we don't want that to happen. Mesh always frays. There's no avoiding it. Some people use a wood burner and cut it that way. That does bind the plastic portion, but like this has fabric in it, so we're not going to want to put any heat on it and start a fire. I haven't had that happen, but I've heard stories. So skip that one. Go to the next. I always recommend that you wear short sleeves when you are working with mesh, because if I say it once, I'll say it 1,000,000 times. Mesh is like Velcro. It sticks to absolutely everything. And this is a great time to point out that you need at least 3 feet of space to work in, so that you're not on top of everything and it's not attaching itself to your wreath as you're making it. It's both aggravating and can cause snags in your mesh. So make sure you have at least 3 feet of room to work. If you don't, or even if you do and you still have lots of other stuff in the area, push your project out of the way when you're working on the mesh so it stays far away from what you're doing. So again, that's going in vertically. Twisting this pipe cleaner tight and low, making sure it was centered in the mesh. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. At least 2, if not 3. The more you twist it, the taller it's going to be, even with it being twisted low and tight. So the 2 is usually enough, but if you're just learning, 3 is safer, and then 3 is safer if you're making adjustments like I am right now, because there's a good chance that the pipe cleaner can untwist and pop open right in the middle of what you're doing. Okay, so this is a little pointy out here and this is a little far in, so I'm going to grab it right down by the pipe cleaner so I can even it out so it's more circular. Again, remembering we want to keep it 50% on each side of the center. Okay, this one's giving me fits. That's completely normal. There's always a few that give you grief. I will say that on a day where I'm making multiples, the further I go along and get into it in my groove, the less that happens. Now remember I said this time I want to have the lime green on the outside edge, so I turned it around. I made sure, as always, that I have the curl side down. Clip also helps hold it flat on the table, as well as finding my center. You notice I'm no longer folding the mesh in half to find my center, because it's super easy with this one because of the red stripe in the center. As long as I stay within the middle of that, I'll stay nice and centered. This is a deco mesh with fabric in it as well. So there's a lot of plastic, there's tinsel, and then there's a little bit of fabric in it. So it's definitely water resistant. If it ends up being out in the weather, it will dry nicely. The same thing with the ribbon. I use quality ribbon, always, and it's not tender, for lack of a better way to put it. It can handle the weather. It will dry up nicely. Never want to have it out in the wide open if you can avoid it. It'll give you a longer life, but that being said, it's going to hold up to the elements for the most part. Okay, so did you notice I'm wearing my matching shirt with the light bulbs to match the ribbon? Thought I'd point that out. It's the little things that make me happy, what can I say? And if you haven't noticed so far, I try to theme my shirt to the project I'm working on. So it's Christmas in July series. I just won't go out in public because I don't want people to think I'm completely nuts. But I like to be in character, so to speak, when I'm creating with you guys. This is a very simple technique because you're basically repeating the same steps over and over and over. And when you follow the simple rules of how to do this, you're going to get a beautiful wreath that looks fluffy from the front and thin from the side, so you can put that between your screen and or storm door, depending on which it is. So this is going to be up for the Christmas season, so it'll be at my storm door, not my screen door. I'm fortunate enough that I have a convertible door, so you take a glass panel out for the summer and put the screen panel in that's framed, and then vice versa for the winter. So that helps. Less to store too. So I love having both. It's simple and effective. So you'll notice every so often I'm taking the scissors out and cutting a string. That's completely normal. Like I said, and I'll say it again, mesh phrase. So I'm turning this curl side down, and I like to use the table. Remember saying fold it in half if you can't figure out otherwise. It helps me uncurl it. And the tighter the curl on the mesh, based on where it was on the roll of mesh when I cut it, that chip clip really helps to hold it down flat on the table. And if that's still not enough, it still wants to curl up on you too much while you're gathering, just lay your phone on it. I know some people have a pet rock. You can put one of your other tools on it. Whatever makes it easiest for you. Okay, we're on the final poof for the bottom layer. I'm making sure that lime green's to the outside, so that it's every other. Lime green, emerald green, lime green, emerald green, lime green, emerald green. That's a lot. It's kind of a tongue twister. Alright, so that's in. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. And once you get more product in the wreath, you're going to have to be a little bit more cognizant of putting it in so you're not snagging in on other things. Okay, so I'm going to move that mesh out of the way for now and show you what we've got so far. I also chose this mesh because it was more white than anything, and I feel that this would stand out better against the sign. So we're going to take the first 6 bundles that I've pre-cut. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So like I said, they were all cut in 12-inch strips, and then I went back, folded them in half with the finished side on the inside so that I remember. It's not as important when you have all patterned ribbons because you can tell the difference between the front and the back, but I do this out of habit, and you'll see that in my other tutorials. But if you have a solid colored ribbon, which we don't on this project, if you don't stay consistently with one routine, you're going to get confused as to whether the front or the back of the ribbon is is facing up. So I just avoid the confusion, and I fold them right away, finished side on the inside, and then I fold them in half with a nice crease. I make my bundles all at once so that I can just fly through the process. So that crease in the middle is where we're going to gather it. We're gathering it just like we did with the ribbon, the mesh. But we're going to hold it with our thumb and forefinger, and we're going to bring the mesh, no, I'm still stuck on mesh, aren't I? Ribbon tails towards me because we want to help it stay in that position once it gets into the frame. So we're going to open all our pipe cleaners vertically so that we can put in the ribbon horizontally. And we're going to twist it 2 to 3 times, tight and low. And then we're going to twist it up in the air to make a 1-inch twist and cut off the excess that is not twisted. This is just to secure it to the frame. I'm going to take that, and you can either tuck it down after you've placed your ribbon in position, or you can do it now. You can either try to tuck it into the wreath like that, or just lay it flat towards the inside of the wreath. It won't be seen by the customer or you or anybody looking at it because this layer will be covered by a second layer of the same process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it so that one side of the ribbon tails is toward me, and I'm going to lift and separate the ribbons all the way up to the pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to place the bottom ribbon where I want it. Then I'm going to lift the top one away from the second one, and I'm going to place it where I want it. And if you notice, as I'm placing it, I'm running my finger over the edges, and sometimes you get a little bubble here. I pop that out. So it's a multi-aspect. No, what am I? Aspect. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Then on the other side, I turned it towards me again, and I'm lifting the top two ribbons all the way up to the pipe cleaner away from the bottom ribbon. And then this time, I'm going to bring the snowflake down here, where on that side I had it up. The light bulbs will always be in the center on this project. And then the plaid, Christmas plaid, will be up on top. Then I like to hold it in the center and bring it down more to the outside without pulling all the other elements to get my ribbon tails. Because on this layer, once everything else is built on top of it, you're only going to see the outer edge. That's why it's so important to invert that bundle so that the ribbon stays outside. It's going to try to hide as I go through the process, but this helps it stay outside. I ruffle it from one side or the other. It doesn't matter, but it's always at the crease. See how I inverted that? So the V is upside down and facing me. 2, 3 low, then twist up. And I encourage you to do every step in each set of tails so that you're not having to come back and do it. So you don't have to worry about forgetting. I'm going to tuck that in there. I'm going to lift and separate. Bring that one up there to match that. I've chosen to go one right after the other in this particular project. A lot of the times I put every other one in and then go back and do the other 3, just the same pattern that I do with the mesh. But today I need to finish one side. Sometimes when I get talking, I get distracted. Alright, I love this. I think this is going to be beautiful. Alright, so here we are next. Okay. So, the nice thing about this particular style is that most of these things that you use as far as tools are things around the house. Everybody has scissors. Just make sure they're good sharp scissors. I use the Fiskar brand, and I only use them for ribbon cutting. This is just a DeWalt clipper, wire cutter, whatever you want to call it today. This is just a chip clip. You don't have to do this. You can feed your pipe with cleaners through the mesh, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But these are super cheap for bundles of 12 to 24 on Amazon. And then this is just needle nose. If you don't have this, pen or pencil. So, you know, you're really not putting any effort into or finances into your tools at the get-go. You can work with what you have till you're sure this is something you want to do, or if it's just a one-time project when you're doing one. You haven't invested a bunch of money. The nice thing, this is not a kit, but the nice thing about buying kits from my shop is that you don't have to invest in full rolls of ribbon that may end up just sitting on the shelf after you build one wreath. If you intend to do more than one wreath with your ribbon or make some bows as well, excuse me, I get dry, then it's not so bad. But not everyone wants all that extra material hanging around. This allows you to invest in just what you want and need for your project. Pardon me. All this talking gets me dry. Okay, so let's do the next bundle. We've got 3 in. I'm going to do the next 3 now. Making sure that's towards me and making sure they're even on both sides. You don't want one side longer than the other. I mean, on the back side, people may not notice it, but you will. And if you're anything like me, it'll bug you if you can see. We're always so critical of ourselves. Okay, I'll put that in there. I'll lift and separate. It's July, so my hands are really dry no matter what I do, so trying to get a hold of the ribbon sometimes is a challenge. If that pops back up, no big deal. You just make sure you get it pushed back in at some point so it's not sticking up. Everything that you can keep as flat as possible makes it flatter between the doors. You have 4 inches of space, that's standard for screen and storm doors, between them and your regular door. So it's important that we try to keep this under those 4 inches. It won't look flat when you look at it walking up on it, like I said. So let's get this in here. So who else has started planning for their Christmas decor? I always think about it about now because first of all, as a business owner, I have to. And second of all, I want to make sure I have everything I need. So I always go through my holiday stuff about this time of the year to see if there's anything I'm lacking. And this year we decided to do a clean out, so we threw away all the Christmas garlands that I put outside. The bows change every year, but I usually have some really beautiful greenery hanging across under our main window, but it was looking pretty tired, so it was time to do something new. So with all the Christmas and July sales out there, I was able to find one at a company online that's going to be super thick, which I'm really excited about. The more you learn, the more you know. And I really wanted something thicker that I didn't have to fabricate myself. So it looks like it's going to be a 14-inch pine garland. I think I got what I got. Is it sequoia? I think it's a sequoia garland. It's 9 feet long, which fits perfectly under the window, but it's 14-inch thick once I fluff it out. So I'm really excited about that. So that'll serve me several more years, at least 3 or 4, maybe more. Just depends on the weather here in southwest Nebraska. That side of the house also gets the most sun, so that's always a consideration as well. Which is really nice in the winter when there's lots of snow on the ground. So get that sunshine sit in front of the big window and warms me up. Don't get me wrong, I like the summer. I like all the seasons. That's part of why we love being here in Nebraska so much, because there's every season. Alright, so there's the first layer. And it's time to move on to the next one. Bring these pipe cleaners for the second layer up in between each piece of mesh from the lower layer, the first layer. See why the pipe cleaners needed to be in between the other pipe cleaners? That way it would fit perfectly right in between the mesh. So we have those 6, and I'm going to spread it out like I did on the first layer, horizontally, so it's ready for me when I get my mesh in there. Yeah, I think this is going to look really good. I hesitated on some of the ribbon. The other ribbon I chose that I changed my mind on just seemed too bright against this sign, so I think this is going to work out really well. One more. Alright, it's now back to mesh. Same thing, we'll put the first 3 in with the emerald facing the outside. In the second set of 3, we'll have the lime green on the outside. I'll remind you once again, if you don't have a ruler or you have a solid colored mesh, you're going to want to fold it in half to find your center and clip it there. This has a pattern, so we know there is the center, so that makes it easy. But if not, you just fold it in half again. You noticed I put it curl side down. This is the more finished side. I'm just gathering it up the center. I'm trying not to strain my back by pulling the mesh down towards me. Sometimes I forget. We're all human. And I gather it up to the top. There are 2 techniques that I use to gather the mesh. I'll show you the second technique. This, I just used both hands and gathered it up to center. I'm holding it loosely with my thumb and forefinger so I can even it out to make sure it's a circle. See, that's trying to catch on my mesh. All right, I'm gonna go in this one. Just bringing that in vertically, keeping it right where that red stripe is. Tight and low 2 to 3 times. Okay, and I'm gonna take that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge on this side. And it's a little off, so I'm going to hold the pipe cleaner and pull it out at the base of the pipe cleaner, not at the edge. We don't want to ruin the design in the mesh. And we're taking the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge of this side. So there we go. I'm going to skip this one and go here. And we want to make sure that emerald is on the outside. I don't need to fold it in half because I know where my center is with that stripe. Stay there. So I do, no matter what, gather it into my thumbs. And I do almost always use both hands to start, but then I put my hand up here. This is another way to do it that I find convenient. And it also helps hold the mesh down, especially when you get to the pieces that have a tighter curl in them from the inside of the roll of mesh. See, like these, they get smaller in the curls. That means they like to give you a hard time even more. Okay, so we're skipping that one. I remembered this time. Putting this in here vertically. Pipe cleaners were horizontal. Bringing the pipe cleaner up, low and tight, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to leave that there, and we're going to skip one again and come to this one. Oh, you guys, I just trying to fly through it. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside edge over inside cut edge. I got some frays here. Cut, cut, cut. And the final one with the emerald on the outside edge. Alright, so this one's really curly. Alright, I definitely need that chip clip to hold it down. This has got some big strings hanging off. Okay. Gather, and I'm going to hold it up here and use one hand. Either way works. You just find what's comfortable to you. I like to mix it up, honestly, so that I'm not repeating the same process over and over. It's not a big deal, but when you're making 8, 10, 12 wreaths a day of the same style, it's nice to mix it up a little bit. Same results, though. Three twists. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Alright. There we go. A little bit more there. Now we're going to go back and do it with the lime green to the outside edge. Alright. We're going to put that clip here. Gather from the other end. In there, so they're all overlapping each other but staying fairly flat. That is what keeps it thin for a storm or screen door. Okay, outside cut edge over inside cut edge, and I may have messed up the ribbon tips a little bit, wrinkling them on the bottom layer, but we always go back through at the end and fluff everything out properly. I'm ready to go to the ribbon. Did you see that? Don't jerk your ribbon too much. I mean, mesh. I talked about ribbons and now I'm wrong. there. Hold it down. See how it's curling even more? Try to keep fairly consistent, fairly tight gathers. It sits better. It ruffles better when you do that. Okay, those are even. Let's get this one in there. We have one more piece to go. And we get to decide on whether we want to put the sign or the ribbon next. And I'll talk about the reasoning behind how I do one way or the other with the ribbon and the sign. Okay, so that is good. That needs to come out just a touch and a little bit right here. There we go. And finally, I have a spare piece. That happens a lot. Put it down there. See how much tighter the curl is on that one compared to when I started on the mesh? Use that table to unroll it. Put that clip on there. Stretch it out that way. And ruffle. Now, yes, I'm flying through this pretty quickly. You can always stop and start it to watch it. But if you, again, I'll remind you that if you want super detailed, that's where the kits come in. And there's videos for each kit that I have available. So you have that tool to help you through. Put that in there, centered vertically in the horizontal pipe cleaners. Tight and low. 1, 2, 3. Scratch my nose. Bring that down. So outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Make sure your circle's nice. The edges are even. And if you have any frays, this is the time to cut them off so you don't have to go back and find them and manipulate your product. So I was saying, this is what it looks like. To put the sign on now or to put the ribbon on now. If it's a perfectly round or square sign, I tend to put the sign in first and then the ribbon on top so it frames it. But this has a design and you want to see it, this or a heart or something like that, a star. You don't, I find that you see the sign and the features of the sign better when you put the ribbon in first. So we're going to go ahead and do that this time. So I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to do the same thing again with the ribbon tails, except we're not going to make a V. Well, maybe we will. Yeah, we're going to make the V's on the top layer too. If you don't want to, after you gather it, you can just put it in the frame and spread it out. But we are going to put the sign on top of the ribbon. So we want it to face the edges, the ribbon to face the edges of the wreath so you can see more of it. So we're going to go ahead and do the same style on the top. There's a little bit of a difference. I'm going to twist it tight and low. 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to twist it up like I did on the bottom because we're not going to cut this. All right, we're going to lift and separate our ribbon. And on the top layer, I'm going to position it slightly different. I'm lifting and separating and placing it in position. On the top layer, every other bundle is going to have the red snowflake to the center of the wreath, then the light bulbs, and then the Christmas plaid to the outside. So this one, and this one will be that way. Then the other set is going to be with the snowflake facing the outside and the Christmas plaid facing the inside. But let's go ahead and finish all 3 of these first so it lays nice and pretty in a pattern. I also wanted to point out that both the snowflake and the light bulb pattern goes both directions in the design. So it doesn't matter what way you place them in the wreath. But if you have a ribbon where the pattern goes the same way no matter what, they're all sitting right side up, the whole ribbon, or if you have words on them, that's a consideration you have to take in how you place them. You're going to have to make sure that you face them all so that when the customer's looking at the wreath, or whoever's looking at the wreath is looking at it, the words are all upside down, and the patterns are all upside down. Or the other way, which is what I do most often, I do like this. I have 3 every other one, where the words are right side up to me, and then I stack the other 3 bundles where the wording or design is upside down. So it's every other. It looks good. It doesn't look bad. You can trust me on that. There are some days when I'm sitting here creating and I see something and it doesn't register that I have it in the wrong direction. So doing that pattern like that I just suggested has helped me retain my sanity. Busy season's coming up, and that's when I'm really producing for my shop and for events. I do a lot of craft shows, and I am a co-chairman for the Oktoberfest craft buildings. So I keep pretty busy between everything. Okay, this is the last one with the Christmas plaid facing the outside. Tighten low 3 times. Alright, so lift and separate all the way up to the pipe cleaner. Spread them out. Run your fingers over the ribbon as you're spreading it out to get any wrinkles out of it, and it also gives it a little bit of a curl. Another thing you can do to give it even more curl is use this dowel or a pen or pencil like this. It gives it a much bigger curl. If you're not putting it behind a storm door, that is definitely advisable. Even if you do, all that's going to happen is when you close the outside door, it's going to flatten it a little bit, but not make it look smushed. That's what's the most important feature on this style of wreath, is that it's not going to look smushed. The absence of the bow takes a lot of that away. You'd still have almost as much ribbon if you just had a mesh wreath with a bow, honestly. So, yeah. Alright, 3 to... come back here. 3 to go. We're doing the following 3. This one's just giving me fits. I feel like I'm working with someone else's hands. Alright, get that in there. Tighten low 3 times. And this time, we're going to lift the top 2 as usual, up to the pipe cleaner. We're going to bring the snowflake down. The light bulbs always stay in the center, and then we're going to bring the Christmas plaid up towards the center of the wreath. Okay, stay. Lift and separate. Another thing that I haven't pointed out yet, which is surprising for me, is you never handle the end of the ribbon either. Just like the mesh, it can fray as well. Not as easily, but the less you're handling any cut portion of your project, the better. So ruffle it up that center, making nice gathers in there, making sure it's even, facing the outside of the table towards me. Put it in the frame. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to lift and separate all the way up to the pipe cleaner. Bring the snowflake down, then bring the light bulbs, and then that. I like to put my hands up at the top, hold it in place a little bit. Well, not always. So lift and separate, place. And I'm not slowing it down for the camera, I'm flying through, there's ribbon everywhere. But it always comes out pretty when I'm done. Okay. Not always, I should say. There are times when I've had to recreate something because it just didn't look right to me. We creatives have those kind of issues at times. Alright. Sometimes something just doesn't work, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I love to make grapevine wreaths, but they're a little bit more intimidating to me after 8 years still, because when you put those florals in and you glue them in, you're committed. You are committed. Now the sign will end up holding it down flat as well. I'm lifting and separating, bringing the snowflake to the bottom, outside edge, I should say, light bulbs, and my Christmas plaid. Okay, so now everything's in except for the sign. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my pipe cleaners kind of fancy. I'm going to put little curly cues in them. You can do the same thing as you did with the bottom and just twist it up and cut off the excess and then tuck it under your ribbon tails. If you don't want to see anything, you'll just have like a little button of pipe cleaner. But I like to add a little bit more character to my wreath by taking the pipe cleaner, and on the inside I roll it on the dowel away from me, and then the outside piece I roll towards me, and it creates this little design right there. You can pull the tips of the pipe cleaners out and see the curly cues themselves, but I'm going to keep them fairly flat because the sign will probably hide a lot of that. So really I could have just cut the excess off after I twisted it and tucked it under the ribbon. I can talk. But you never know what people are going to see from the side, so you want to make sure that as they're walking in their door and they see this on the door, that it's going to look finished even from that perspective. Another one. See how that works? I'm just twisting it around. And for some reason, this last time I got the pipe cleaners, they're super fluffy. I love it. That's particularly nice when they're going to be able to see it. Depending on where you buy them from, they can be pretty thin. If that's not important to you, then stick with the skinny ones. I like these. I think I bought them by accident last time, so now I'm in love with them. I'm going to have to see if they have them in the other colors. Usually I get my pipe cleaner / chenille stems, depending on where you're looking, what they call them, from Hobby Lobby. So let's get that twisted around there. And then after I get this done, I'll show it to you, and then I'm going to stand up. I got to stand and sit most of the time. I can't do all of one way or the other. Need some variety, right? That's the last one. Okay. And I'm not going to fuss with any other ribbon yet because once I want to do that after I add the sign. Christmas shirts and shorts. Okay. So then I'm going to determine where I want 12 o'clock to be on my wreath. I'm going to go with this being my top center and this my bottom center. So 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So hopefully that makes more sense now. I didn't want to mess with that one because it was super cockeyed. Alright. This is going to be upside down to you. I can't help it. I want to make sure it's centered correctly. So I bring my pipe cleaners forward in front of the wreath sign, and then I use this and this to center my sign. Especially when you have wreaths with words, it's important to do that. So this peak on the center of the house over Home for the Holidays is my center. You can use a measuring tape or the pad or a ruler to determine if you're just not sure. And then let's see, where is the center? I'm going to be extra careful. So this is a 10.5-inch wreath sign. So that's going to be 5 1/4. So the center is actually the middle of this side of the door and the L. I was off a little. So the L and that. And I'm going to center it so it's equally between these two. And the same thing over here. That was my center. So this is where I'm going to take that plastic embroidery needle. Let me see if I can bring this in a little bit for you to see me do it a little closer. Alright. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it through the mesh all the way to the back of the wreath, but I'm going to make sure the ribbon's out of the way. We do not want to try to stab the ribbon. I'm going to bring in all the way through to the back. I'm holding it with my other hand, and I'm putting a bend in the pipe cleaner so that it stays on the hook all the way through to the back. Now you would think I was going to do this one next. No, I'm coming over here to this corner. We do it in an X fashion because that way we make sure that the sign stays level and is not leaning one way or the other. It makes a difference, trust me. So I'm going to take it off the table a little bit. I'm also making sure that this sign, this needle is slightly under the sign, so you're not going to be able to see where the pipe cleaners went through the mesh, okay? So before we go any further, I'm going to still make sure that that's lined up. And I have a piece of bubble wrap that held the sign. I like to cover the sign when I'm flipping it over so I don't accidentally scratch it on the table. So I'm going to hold it like that. And I'm going to go ahead and attach the pipe cleaners while pushing down on the wreath just a little bit to make it taut. We don't want the sign to look sucked into the frame. I don't want that one all the way up there. I want it down here. So I'm going to bring it down to the first ring. It doesn't really matter, but I like things to look consistent even on the back in the mechanics. Bring that through. I'm twisting the pipe cleaner around the frame until it is completely used up. And you always want to make sure that that very end is facing back down into the wreath facing the front, because if somebody has an insert of glass on their door or just to be protective of the door, that is what you want to do to protect it from scratching it. Okay, so now it's time to go back and do this one and this one. I'm going to start up here, bringing it to me so I'm not struggling. Put that through, fold it over, lift it, pull it through, make sure it's all the way through, turn it again. We're making sure that we don't put the pipe cleaner through any ribbon. So if any of the ribbon is in the way on the bottom layer, you're also going to want to move it aside. Do not go through the ribbon. Pull that through, pull it off with the needle. I'm going to put that back on there to protect it. Turn it over. This one's off kilter just a little. I want it right there. I like to have it around the chenille stem from the mesh so that everything's together and it doesn't look like a big giant mess. This is a good time if you see any frays. There's a trash can over there. I'm not just wildly throwing it. This is a good time to get the frays off. Not that they're going to see the back very much, but you want it to look as finished as well. That's a little wild. And put this last one around the frame until it's gone. I did the other one, right? Yeah, I did. I got sidetracked by the fray. Happens all the time. Get that point down in the center. Some fray. Sometimes you don't see it all. I saw one here. Here it is. Alright. So now, I'm just going to go and fluff it up a little bit. Give it a little curl. This one should be on top. Here I am reaching across the wreath instead of bringing it to me. I need to practice what I preach, right? Oh, I think this is fun. A little whimsy in there with the light bulbs. Love it. And honestly, as a maker, we really have to do this in the summer because this stuff, the materials are already flying off the shelves. Put that out a little bit more. And check my ribbon on the outside, making sure it's making an appearance. Nope, you go out here. Stop. It doesn't matter, but if you want to be consistent, make sure the same ones are in the same position on each. I may have done this one already, but I'm doing it again if so. Alright. So let me bring that back out so you can see it completed. Okay, well thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe for more wreath making fun. New videos premiere every Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and you can shop for my finished wreaths and my kits in my Etsy store at Wreaths by Marguerite. You can also follow me and get reminders on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, all at Wreaths by Marguerite. Most of all, thank you for spending some of your valuable time with me. It truly means a lot to me. You could be spending your time doing anything, but you're here with me, so that means a lot. And until next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.